Basically, it was about having a united council because I knew if the council is united, you can do everything else you want to do. So, in a nutshell, it was just that to unite the council to work for the students.
I had a very bright vision. I remember I had four agendas when I was getting into office. And one of the most important agendas that I had was to be an active student leader, to be very present, to be able to articulate issues or matter students to the administration. So my vision was to see a TUK that was very vibrant in terms of participating in activities, in terms of participating in external activities as well, and also having a school that has healthy minds, like people, mental health was a big thing for me, as well as menstrual health in school, especially among the ladies. But the most important thing was I wanted to realize a leadership for females. I wanted to shift the conversation from female leaders being flower girls to actually being positive change makers. Because as I was getting into office, of course, there was a lot of, oh, all the ladies that are joining politics or those who are getting the various positions, they actually just come to be flower girls. I didn't want that for myself. I wanted to change the whole narrative that we can get female student leaders that are very articulate, that are very confident, and that can fight for the student for the matters pertaining students, both at the administration and the school at large.
Thank you so much. My vision when I took office as the Secretary General was number one, and the main vision was to ensure that student voice is projected and whatever student need, especially on their welfare, is advocated for. That was number one vision. Number two was to ensure the dignity of SATUK as the student union, a union which represents the voice of the student. Its dignity is restored, and student leaders regain their power to represent their constituents.
I think partly that working together with the council, because funny thing is, or the good or bad thing, I don't know, we used to know when to fight and we used to know when to work together, and it's very healthy for an organization. You can't just be working together every time and you can't just be fighting every time. So I guess we managed to strike a balance between working together and fighting when it was necessary.
My greatest achievement, I think all my achievements are just great, but I think I would say that one. My position is among like the last ones in the SATUK. Yeah, when you look at the council hierarchy, but I feel that I have been able to, first of all, change the narrative again of female student leaders. That you can have female student leaders that are very active. The other achievement was, though it is still work in progress, I remember my vision was to have a website for TUK peer counselors and to have peer counselors that I work very closely with. And I think that is one of my biggest achievements because I have been able to build a very strong relationship because peer counselors are the ones that help me kwa ground. Wao ndo watakwambia nani ana maybe ana go through something, who is having issues with school fees, who is having issues with hostel. They have been very instrumental, especially when you are having hizo mandamanos and all that kind of stuff. So they really helped in extending a hand to the students, especially when it comes to matters mental health. It has been a very big problem for us because there are a lot of things that are facing young people and most especially university students. So I feel that being able to have that close relationship, and I think, yeah, for the first time in 4 years or 5 years, peer counselors are going to get certificates. It looks very small, but to me it's one of my biggest achievements because these peer counselors have been very active, especially in my cohort, and I'll just love to see that they are appreciated and they can actually use their skills and prove that they can use their skills to other spaces. Yeah.
Uh, I'm leaving SATUK with my head high because I believe I've achieved, if not 100%, it's 90% of my vision. or my manifesto. My greatest achievement was or is the restoration of the student center, because you can recall that when we took office, the student center was closed down. Students were stranded. There was nowhere they could get even snacks or stationary items they need for their studies. Number two, we had challenges in the institution, especially students' welfare were at stake. I've tried my best, obvious, in consultation or in working together with my fellow union leaders to ensure that at least student voice were heard in all discussion tables by the management, by the university council itself. And you can also recall that during our tenure, we've suffered a lot of issues, especially strike, student strike and staff strike. We've tried to maneuver, and in all that, the consequences of every action, students were not affected much. Even those who were suspended because of strike, we can recall and we can confirm that they were reinstated due to negotiations and discussions that we had with the management.
I think there is strike, lecturer strike.
Strike, I think we've had, are they 3 to 4 strikes? We had one nationwide strike, and then we've had 3, right?
Main challenge was strike, both from student and lecturers and staffs at large. Second was on financial constraint. I've told you TUK budget was scrapped by 1 million. Then again, previous TUK offices have been receiving payments or their allowance from the university, but this time round, all payments, anything that was supposed to be funded in TUK was funded with the constrained budget that was approved. The third one was miscommunication, or I can say maybe failure to adopt still the new idea or recommendations by TUK. The management was a bit adamant, maybe they had their own reasons, to implement some of the recommendations that we gave them, that we thought as student leaders that will benefit both students and the management.
I think the simplest synonym I can use is leadership is a responsibility. Basically, if I reflect on my position currently in school, I don't see gender and social welfare secretary from the aspect that it's a position in the SATU constitution. I see it from a point of what are the responsibilities that come to it. So anywhere I go, in everything that I do, I always look at what is behind that particular position. And so basically what is behind gender and social welfare, that is what I actually define as leader.
Okay, I'll speak on decision making on two perspectives. Number one, from students leaders side and from the management side. Obvious, I would like to confirm that from the management side, they tried, but I can give them maybe 40 or 40 over 100. From student leader side, we had our challenges, and I can also say 80%, but I'm happy because of the 80% were all fighting for students' right or advocating for students' right. As you know, student leaders, our mandate is just to represent students and advocate for what they need. Advocacy you can do in different ways. You can do activism sometimes, which may lead to maybe online activism or physical activism, which may actually lead to strike. So on decision making, student union, we had fruitful discussions which were anchored on student welfare. We tried to advocate, but some of these discussions and decisions never actualized because you know, the supreme decision-making organ of the university is the management and the council and the senate, depending on the issue they are discussing or the issue we are presenting. When it comes to financial issues that needed financial action, we had a lot of challenge because, as we know, SATUK budget was scrapped by almost 1 million. Then also SATUK budget was again burdened because most of the things were taken back to SATUK. SATUK had to fund itself. So most of the student affairs, maybe we did not do the way we expected. From management side, yes, they took some actions which were, to me, was maybe against SATUK and were not beneficial or were actually interfering with the student welfare. We can remember and confirm that failure to open the cafeteria or shop 14, as we all know, where students used to get their meals, that again jeopardized students' welfare. And I'm leaving SATUK pained because I was not able to achieve that, to achieve the opening of the cafeteria. And I believe one day, one time, the discussions and decisions of the management will one day help student welfare, especially on food access.
I think majorly there are two main ways of solving issues to do with strike. It's either you demonstrate or you dialogue. So for us as a body, there were demos, of course, a lot of demos, and then also there were dialogue. And in the end, I think the issue was resolved, and that's what matters.
The strike issue was very controversial, I must say, because during the strike, I remember there was a memo that was written for students to vacate the hostels. I think by around 4 p.m. the same day we were supposed to sit for exams. And I remember around 80 or 75 to 80% of the students vacated the hostels, both in the male and in the female hostel, which brought a lot of issues. And that is my core department, actually. So my role as the gender secretary was to ensure that those students who were not able to go home, because of course someone being told to go home by 4 p.m., probably you do not have fare to go home or anything, they were allowed to actually stay in the hostel until it was time for them to vacate. Because the situation that we had was that now we are having people in the hostel, the staff members are on strike. So basically, these people have no protection. They have no one looking after them. They do not have anything to do. Yes, someone is going to say, oh, we are adults, but at the same time, this is an institution. So I think students going home, it shook and brought a lot of conversation. But I love the fact that the administration was kind enough to extend for those students who were not able to actually get home on the same day. The other thing will be during the strike, we had a lot of issues. Like, again, I will still go back to the peer educators that I have, that we have been working closely. We used to have meetings concurrently, and we will always discuss on, by the way, what are some of the things that students are facing, what are they saying, how is everyone feeling. And I was able to escalate that to the administration and be able to be like, okay, every day we were always pushing, where are we, where are you guys, so what is the ministry saying, because we need students back in class. The last thing will be, of course, answering to the calls of the students. There are some who unfortunately got involved in accidents, there are some who had various emergencies, but I think I was able to coordinate with the medical services department, which was able to cater. Like, the school was still running perfectly. If you needed any medical attention in the clinic or you were in a different hospital, the school was able to cater for that, even despite the fact that there was no active learning. Yeah.
Students were affected by 3rd February. We can remember some students were suspended. They were suspended when university was also closed. Speaking on behalf of students really helped. We advocated with my fellow student union members. We pushed for their reinstatement, and eventually they were reinstated. I can also say student won.
I opened the server for them.
Okay, okay.
Thank you. That's a very good question.
If someone didn't mobilize well, you can't be crying of rigging every time, because I opened the server, everyone saw the results, even for the nominations the results were there. So I think there's nothing more I can do, because people will always talk, but the results were there.
I think I will say I wouldn't separate myself from the SATUK awards, because I was actively part of the people who were planning that TUK Awards. And from my experience, I think those are the most transparent TUK Awards we've ever had. I remember the only challenge that we had was that we had screens, we had planned to actually air the results, but now there was a technical issue. Remember, actually, we started even a bit late than we ought to have started. So what happened is that later on, we had to run those awards now using our WhatsApp status so that people can know how many votes did you get, how many votes did everyone get, whether you are number one, number three, how many votes did you get. So I think it was done in a very open way. It's just that, TUK Awards, people nominate you and vote for you individually. So you might think that you're famous, people are going to vote for you, but it all boiled down to how many people do you know. And that is what you were seeing. I saw people, and I could attest to those people who actually won. They were actually very active in reaching out to people personally and be like, vote for me. This is what I do. People went ahead even to write blogs, to do videos on what they have done. If you're going for environment, you're going for whatever position. So I think they were very transparent, and I understand that, of course, when something is credible, it will always be criticized. Yeah, that is what I will say. When something is credible, kabisa, people will always criticize. But from my own point of view, it was a spectacular and fair, one.
But as it stands, it's political as well, and that I can tell students it's political. I've been here, this is my 4th year, and I can confirm it's political. I've been here for the last 3, I've been witnessing the last 3 TUK Awards, and it's political, nothing different. And I can say this year's TUK Award was better compared to the previous years.
I think it was the people were trying to impeach me. The whole thing was led by Peter Marite, the faculty rep, in cahoots with the what is his name, Duma, that guy that vied and failed. Mainly, I don't know, Peter Marite. His main issue, I think, he not accepted his position. He had not accepted that he's a board member, and board members cannot be council members. And then he has his own personal issues that I won't go much into, but he has issues with me that he thought best to express through trying to do something that was misadvised because it was dead on arrival.
We had another challenge with HELB and fee delay, because you can confirm this year we had an issue even with the government. This is the year where the new funding model was challenged in court. Court pronounced itself, and the new funding model was scrapped.
I think as I took through our bodies, there is KUSO, very many branches. There are many student umbrella organs. So I think we tried to push through them. There were strikes through, maybe for me, I'm a part of KUSO. We organized, we did pressers, we pushed the government. I think we tried our best.
Gender-specific challenges. I think one is, I wouldn't say it's even gender specific. I think nowadays all these issues, like, they affect all genders. But in particular, female students, we had female students that had a bit of issues with access to menstrual health products. And I think they are still available up to now. A lot of them are still available. Menstrual health, people perceive that simply because someone is in campus, probably it is very easy for you to afford. But I always use this example. Sometimes the economic challenges that we face, kuna time unasort, and then that time probably your menses come and you do not have a sanitary towel. I mean, I saw it very prudent to actually have that actualized as the first thing. The other thing is, of course, harassment of students. It wasn't a lot, but I will say you'll hear some few students here and there facing such challenges. And for the male in particular, it will be on mental health. People normally see mental health as a girl's thing, but a lot of guys are going through that because there's a lot of pressure, especially on the boy child. Oh, you're supposed to be like this. Wengine hata mnalipia madem rent. Sometimes unajiwekea responsibilities zenye zinakuwa mingi, it becomes too much for you. Others are the breadwinners in their families. So I wouldn't it's only for menstrual health that you can say it's for ladies alone, but all the others, I would say both genders have actually raised such issues.
I think in that the main issue was the students did not want to hear what we were telling them. They wanted to hear what they wanted to hear. You know, as a leader, there are many difficult decisions you have to make and you have to convey to the students. So I think the main issue was it was not the breakdown, although some parts I think we could do better by communicating better. But I think it was the main issue was there was not communication, but they didn't like the communication they were getting. That's in my view.
One, you asked me a question on is there time, any time or any day that we withheld any uh, communication to student, maybe from the management. There was no communication gap, but a challenge that I witnessed as a spokesperson of the student. Number one, majority of the students are not aware of what they want. They do not understand. Number two, some of us or some of the students are not taking keen of the written communication. Because as a student leader or a secretary general, to be specific, when I want to communicate to students, I do through a memo or a press. A challenge that I faced is that you write a memo you send to students, then some of them do not read the memo. And also I would like to recommend as well that memos that are coming from the student union should also be uploaded in the portal so that students can access, because we rely on WhatsApp groups, Facebook accounts, and other platforms, social media platforms, to relay information. Yet some of the students maybe are not taking keen or are not concentrating on social media platforms. They only maybe take serious what they see in their portal. So I would recommend that next time the management adopt a system where all communication that is coming from student leaders can be uploaded in the student portal under the TUK, so that student can go to the portal and get something which is communicated from office of the chair or specific office, and that will really help. Thank you.
Safe spaces. I think I created a lot of safe spaces, even in my WhatsApp. I don't know whether that is also a safe space, but yes, I think one of the principles of being a peer counselor, I was a peer counselor before I became a student leader, is you first create a safe space by ensuring there's confidentiality. So of course, students will reach out to you and tell you about what they are actually going through. So of course, being there and be like, okay, it's okay, you can actually talk to me, giving them a call, yeah. And because as I said, we had a lot of challenges with the strikes. So of course, I wouldn't say like I was seated in the office all the time, because I mean, school is closed, what are you doing? A lot of students will reach out either via call or via text. Another safe space that I think I created is, again, going back to the peer educators. The team of around 40 people that we have currently that I trained in my cohort were the biggest safe spaces that I ever created. Yeah, because a lot of students were able to reach out to them, and we can say that they were able to execute their duties, even though voluntarily, in a very perfect way, and they were able to escalate things at the right time. Yeah. How do I want to be remembered? Do people define how they want to be remembered? Maybe that people just, there's someone who will just remember you as
That's a good one. How do I want to be remembered?
Uh, I believe I did my best.
anyway. But I think if I was to create that picture in the people that I have worked with, is that leader that was very proactive, the leader that was very confident, and the leader that was willing to change the narrative. I will still go back to flower girls. I really hate that word, because I am the kind of person who, whatever space I am in, I always want to create impact. If I'm not creating impact, I won't be there. I will just go, regardless of the situation. Even if it's me and the grass, I'll just make sure there's something I'm doing with the grass. So anytime that I'm in a space and there's nothing that I am changing, obviously I won't feel like I have any business. So I think not only in school, I've been a very big noisemaker. People know me as a very noise, but constructive noisemaker. Noisemaker to mean that I'm the kind of person who will raise up her hand and be like, you know what, this is not right. We can go with this. Yeah, I'm the person who doesn't believe in impossibilities. So when you say something is impossible, me, I'll bring the most possible ways, give you options, negotiate on what option works for us, and we go with it. I don't take no for an answer. So watu wasiseme ati nikiambiwa huko na mtu ano nasema lazima to date. No, that is not what I mean. But when it comes to, especially when it comes to matters leadership, mimi they all know from the administration, they know me never take no for an answer, because I mean it's one thing that I've also come to learn in light with what I want people to remember me with, is that in leadership it calls for a lot of negotiation. Kila mtu ana pull strings zake, students wana pull huku, admin ina pull huku, so you are left at the middle. Yeah, you can't be, wezi kanyagia kitu seme hapa ndo nasimama. No, you all have to make sure that all these two teams come at a point where you can actually negotiate. Yeah, so I think something that I failed to mention is that the X spaces that we held, I think with the academic secretary twice, they really helped a lot in articulating issues, especially from the administration now boiling down to students and making them understand. So I know a lot of people shy away from such spaces, especially when you're saying things that are very unpopular. But I think the fact that I was confident enough to actually say things that were very unpopular and will bring a lot of backlash on me, which came Batilisha. I think, yeah, I don't know, but how I wish people could create that picture of Wamuhu. Yeah.
Coming out of TUK with my head held high boldly, because I did what I could. I did what I promised students. So it's upon people who saw my strength, people who are there, who saw what I did, to remember me with what I did, what I impacted on their lives, how I helped them, the situation I helped them maybe overcome, how I handled my issues or how I handled matters. But I cannot tell someone, or I cannot say I need to be remembered because I did 1, 2, 3. Maybe from my side, I did something maybe commendable, but to student it didn't maybe attract attention of the student, or maybe it didn't impact on their lives. So I would like, maybe I hope I'll be remembered with what I did, the kind of my leadership, and you can confirm that my kind of leadership was somehow very soft and also very rough at some point, especially when I saw someone, or when I sense that there is something that someone want to do which is against a student. That one again, my way of approaching issues were a bit rough. And when it comes to maybe handling student and getting information from them, maybe negotiating between management and the student, I would be someone very soft. So it's upon now my constituents to remember me with what maybe I impacted on their life.
I don't know. It's up to the students. I can't really say what I want anyone to remember me for. I think I interacted with a lot. I didn't interact with others. So I think it's up to anyone who wants to remember me, as long as they remember me. So
I always go for one thing. Always, always chase impact-driven activities rather than popularity. The reason as to I will say this is, there's a time in my leadership that I was the kind of person who students didn't want to listen to me or actually look at me, because especially when we had the strike, there were a lot of issues. Of course, kuna ile pressure, students are telling you we want to go for maandamano and everything. But now as a leader, you have to sit down and start analyzing things and start seeing what are the pros and cons of doing this. What am I going to lose? What am I going to gain? So it got to a point where, you know, I can't blindly lead you simply because I want to be popular. I want you to hail me. No. Mimi sipendi kudanganywa. I like people who actually say the truth. It will hurt, but it is okay. And that is one thing that I try to explain to students. And let me just create a small picture. The issue that we had was a staff and the employer. It is an employer-employee issue. That is why when it was settled, no student was invited there. Why? Because those are matters that are way beyond us. The only thing we could do is to ensure huyo student mwenye ako home, zile challenges ana go through, whether it is medical, whether it is mental health, whether they need something, whether they are lacking food, how can we bridge the gap for this one student? Because when we say that everything cannot be sorted out with activism, but activism is important. There's a time you need to sit down, listen more than you speak. Because at the end of the day, student leaders cannot give you everything. We can't come teach you. At the end of the day, it all goes back to how much are we relaying up there? Because up there they have everything. They have the resources, they have the staff members. Yeah. So don't go for popularity. It is only going to be helpful for a very short period of time. But once you are able to explain to students this matter at hand, some are going to appreciate what you're doing, some will not. And that's perfectly fine. Yeah.
Not everything that you think is possible is possible.
Fight for students. Be careful when engaging with the government, and just be firm, because students also sometimes can try to lead you into some things that might not end well with you or for you. So just be firm, fight for the students, be careful when you're dealing with this government. Yeah.
Number two, what you think must be done sometimes will not be adopted by the management. And now it takes a leader with a vision and a leader who knows what he's doing to help or to advocate for student rights. It takes a very sober leader to advocate for student rights in TUK. Number one, because you have a lot of issues, maybe a lot of ideological enmity. From students themselves, some of them do not know what they want. I told you. Other universities, when something is wrong and student knows that this is wrong, they'll come out and speak and tell their student leaders, this is what we want. When you are going to discuss or to advocate, this is what you advocate for. I want to tell the incoming leaders or the aspirant, because we do not have leaders yet, that you really need to be sober, because what you think it is, it's not.
I thought when I was doing my manifesto, I thought it was very, very time bound. But I think I would have advocated. I don't know how that would have come to light, especially with the fact that the university was laying off people. But I would want to have a gender-centered department in TUK, because there are a lot of opportunities that come our way, and because our leadership is only a 1-year term, you cannot do so much. But when you have an office that is working towards the sustainability of projects, then that will go a long way and it will make it easier for the leaders that will be coming, because you have a lot of opportunities that come, but then again the question comes in of sustainability. And most of the times, because we do not have like a gender department, a department that is in charge of um, anything to do with gender. Yeah, so maybe if we could have that department that could be able to create these opportunities for students, especially those who are going into policy making, those who want to do advocacy and activism, especially with the fact that we've had a lot of high femicide cases.
I think I'd try to talk to students more. Maybe I'm not the person who really interacts with people more. Uh, the other, like, okay, I interacted with a lot of people, but there are some people I didn't interact with, and unfortunately those that I didn't interact with were the loudest. So I think maybe I'd interact with people more, talk to them, listen to them, because I realize some people just need to listen to hear what you have to say. And because I remember there's a time students had an issue with me in the LT, but afterwards I outside I was talking to some of them and I was like, so this is the reason why you see, so maybe that better communication, something like that. Yeah.
So just be sober. Ensure when you go there, be open-minded. Don't Not every time you need to be an activist. Sometimes you'll just be forced to advocate for something, push, and if maybe backing of the student, because most of the time student might even fight you when you are fighting for what is best for them, just because you don't want to communicate to them at that time that whatever I'm doing will benefit you. As a leader, sometimes you don't need to communicate everything to students, especially what have not matured. You don't need to communicate because it can cause a lot of tension and everything can be at a mess. So to the new leaders, I wish you all the best, but just know, after getting into such TUK offices, now you really need to be sober. You don't need to be a politician. For now, you can do politics, but after politics, what will drive you is vision, qualities of leadership that you'll have, and you'll face a lot of challenges. You will be remembered with how you handle your challenges. Yes.
What would you do differently if given another chance?
That question, we were somewhere in a meeting in this university and someone asked me the same question. And I said, I'll not do anything different from what I did because I believe I did my best. I gave students all I had. If it's advocacy, I advocated. If it's through prayers, I'm also spiritual. I prayed for them. Even in those meetings where tensions were so high and people were banging tables and we had to uh, uh, exchange some word with the senior people to ensure at least students' voice were heard. At the end of the day, I still say everything, the bucks will stop with God, so we have to pray for students. When we were required to go for strike, I led strikes. And I'm very happy because during my my tenure, wherever I took students to street, none of them was injured, especially only for maybe few, 1, 2 students who get bruised with just a small injury. No one was arrested. All students remained safe. So if it's a matter of tension, we did. Strike, we did. Advocacy, we did. And whatever could come out of all that is what you can see. So someone, I believe the person who is coming after me is better than me because I've done what I could. I've done my best. And I believe whatever remaining is what I could not do. And the reason why I believe whoever is coming after me is better than me is because everything he's coming to do is what maybe I tried and I could not do. So to me, I believe when given a chance, I'll still try to push for whatever I did not do because I don't give up. But there is nothing new. But we know every day we learn, every way we come up with new ideas. The only different thing, maybe, is now to come up with a different way of doing or of pushing for all these things.
So you can only implement something that can go for 1 year. But if we have such a department where we will say like one day they will say, oh, but this gender secretary of this year started this project, and 5 years down the line, the project is still continuing. So if that will be implemented, I think it will go a long way with also tackling issues of harassment of all genders. It will go a long way.